Chapter 1. The Neon Pulse. Part 1. The world did not end with a bang, nor a whimper. It ended with a hum, a sustained, high-frequency vibration that rattled the marrow in every human bone, a sound that tore through the ionosphere and reshaped the biology of every living thing under the sky. 2 days had passed since the great ion storm, yet the silence left in its wake was louder than the cataclysm itself. In the deep, reinforced belly of the Wasteland Inc bunker, the air tasted of ozone, scorched plastic, and the metallic tang of something fundamentally broken. Winky Wasteland stood at the threshold of the server farm, his gaze fixed on the heavy, lead-lined door. He took a breath, the air burning his lungs, a sensation that had become his new, unrelenting normal. He looked down at his own hands. Where there had once been tan skin, calloused from years of salvaging the scrap heaps of the old world, there was now a translucent, shimmering skeletal structure. His bones glowed with a rhythmic, pulsating neon red light, a constant, flickering reminder of the radiation that had claimed his biology and fused it with the very power grid he was now desperately trying to salvage. He stepped into the server hub. The room was a cathedral of blinking LEDs, massive nests of exposed wiring, and the low, mournful drone of humming cooling towers. It was the heart of everything they were, and everything they hoped to be. "Status," Winky said. His voice sounded different, thinner, layered with an artificial reverb that seemed to vibrate against the cold metal walls of the server bank. Static, the moderator and lead singer of Winky Metal, sat hunched over the master console. Her movements were fluid, almost unnerving in their precision. Her skin, once fair and unremarkable, was now a vibrant, shifting shade of neon orange, like a sunset caught in a glass prism. She didn't look up immediately. Her fingers were dancing across a haptic keyboard that flickered with every keystroke, the light bleeding into her fingertips, weaving into the lines of code she was attempting to stabilize. "The cooling systems are holding at 60%, Static replied, her voice calm, though the digital distortion in her tone betrayed her exhaustion. "The ion levels outside are fluctuating. Every time the red sky surges, the intake filters choke. I'm rerouting power from the secondary broadcast array to keep the main server banks from frying. If the heat builds up any higher, we lose the core." "Keep them cool," Winky said, pacing the length of the aisle. The sound of his boots against the grated floor echoed unnaturally. "If the servers go dark, we're just corpses in a bunker, and this entire legacy dies with us." "I know the stakes, Winky," Static countered, her jaw set. Near the back of the bay, the band members, Volt, Goliath, and Anvil, were struggling to maintain their physical tether. The ion storm had not been kind to them. It had integrated them into the facility's architecture. Volt, the guitarist, held an instrument that looked like a jagged piece of ship hull plating with laser-strung wires. As the ion levels in the room spiked, his body began to lose its focus. He turned into a cascade of light and code, a shimmering ghost of a man, his form flickering like a bad television connection. Goliath, the bassist, let out a grunt, his fingers stretching and elongating as he tried to grip his instrument, only for his hands to phase through the neck of the bass. He groaned, a sound that was half human, half static. Anvil, the drummer, struck his kit, a collection of scavenged industrial drums and pipes. The sound didn't echo normally. It burst outward in a wave of blue light, a digital shockwave that sent ripples through the air. For a fleeting second, his form solidified, a towering figure of neon red bone and shadow, before dissolving into a cloud of glowing data particles. "It's not just the hardware," Static said, her voice tight, pushing back from her terminal. She watched her bandmates with a mix of awe and terror. "The ion storm, it didn't just mutate us. It integrated us. Our neural patterns were synced to the servers during the peak of the storm. We're tethered, Winky. We're not entirely physical anymore." "Explain," Winky demanded, stopping his pace to look at them. "We can't leave the facility," Static said, her eyes glowing with an intense, amber fire. "If we move beyond the range of the facility's localized dampening field, our digital signatures destabilize. We flicker, we cease to be, but if we project, we can exist anywhere there's a receiver. Anywhere there's a signal." Down the hall, in the bunker's living quarters, the atmosphere was thick with a different kind of heaviness. Mustang Rider sat on the edge of her bunk, her head in her hands. She was still recovering from the change, the way her own body felt foreign, the way her voice now seemed to carry echoes of 100 different songs from the old world. She had been singing a 1940s torch song earlier, trying to keep the terror at bay, but now she just sat in the dim, pulsing orange light, listening to the drone of the ventilation system. Everyone else was scattered throughout the bunker, each dealing with the shock of their new existence. Roxy Ripper, the radio DJ who had defined the sound of the wasteland for years, leaned against a rack of oscillating drives in the main hub. A pair of headphones was permanently fused to the skin near her ears, the wires trailing down her neck like metallic veins. She was rotating a manual dial on an old analog receiver, her neon orange eyes tracking the needle as it bounced erratically. "The frequencies are a graveyard," Roxy said, her voice raspy. "I'm picking up pulses, but they aren't voices. It's just the planet screaming." The storm scrubbed the FM bands clean. Red Ghost, the talk show host, sat on a stack of discarded power units in the corner. He was hunched over a tablet, his own neon red skeletal frame casting long, jagged shadows against the wall. He was recording, capturing the silence, the fear, and the reports of the firestorms that tore across the surface. "I have listeners, Winky," Red Ghost said, not looking up. "Not many, but enough. They're scared. They don't know why they're glowing, and they don't know why the sun looks like a bruised artery. They want to know if it's over." "Tell them it's just beginning," Winky replied, staring into the heart of the server room. Wanky and Wonky were tucked into a small storage alcove, trying to figure out how to maintain their rhythm in a world that had gone silent. Wanky was busy polishing a piece of scrap metal he was using for percussion, while Wonky was staring at a flickering monitor, mesmerized by the data streams. Winky walked over to the band. He moved closer, his own neon red chest cavity pulsing with a steady, drum-like beat. "We have to be careful. If the power dips, you stay here. You don't get lost in the network. Do you understand?" "We understand," Volt said, the guitar in his hands humming with electricity that had no source. Mustang Rider walked into the server farm, her movements graceful. She wasn't a digital entity like the band, but she looked as out of place as a ghost in the machinery. She touched a hand to the server rack. "The bunker is holding," she said softly, "but it feels like a cage." "It's a sanctuary," Winky corrected. "For now," Roxy added from the radio desk. "But I'm tracking something. A drift. Someone else is broadcasting on the periphery. It's not a scavenger signal. It's too deliberate." Winky looked at the monitors. The screens were flooded with scrolling lines of code, corrupted files, and the occasional burst of raw, unfiltered ion noise. "Is it a threat?" Winky asked. Roxy squinted at the monitor, her orange eyes widening. "It sounds like grunge. Distorted, heavy, and mean. It's not Winky metal, and it's definitely not a civilian broadcast." "Signal rot," Static muttered, her fingers clenching the edge of the console. "I heard rumors before the storm. They were looking for a way to break the frequency lock. If they're up, they're looking to tear our signal down." Winky stood in the center of the room, looking at the team he had gathered. The musicians who lived in the light, the hackers who lived in the code, and the voices who kept the darkness at bay. They were a family of mutants, survivors, and artists, trapped in a bunker at the end of the world. "Let them try," Winky said, his voice hard. "We're going to broadcast. We're going to show the wasteland that even in the middle of a neon firestorm, we still have a sound." He walked over to the main transmission switch. He hesitated for a fraction of a second, feeling the hum of the bunker beneath his feet, the life support systems, the server fans, the heart of the digital world they were building. He looked at Static, then at the band, who were already fading in and out of their physical forms, ready to project their music across the burning, orange sky. "Static," Winky said, his voice steady. "Prepare the feed. Red Ghost, get the microphone ready. We're going live to the wasteland." As Static's fingers flew across the keyboard, the bunker seemed to exhale. The lights dimmed, then surged with a brilliant, blinding neon red glare. On every screen, the logo of Wasteland Inc. began to pulse, synchronized with the heartbeat of the bunker itself. The slow burn of their new life had officially begun. Outside, the sky raged with fire and ion storms, but inside, the signal was clear. The music started, a slow, atmospheric buildup, heavy with the weight of the apocalypse, yet carrying an undeniable, defiant melody. As the first notes played, the band's digital forms expanded, their images projected onto the servers, then outward through the relay, seeking an audience in the wreckage. It was a broadcast into the void. It was the first act of a new world. And in the silence between the notes, Winky could swear he heard the discordant, ugly feedback of a rival signal trying to break through. The war for the airwaves had begun,